Hello, fellow notaries. This is Liz Head, EC Head Consulting, EC Head Training Workshops. I did a video on where to do cash outs on October 7th. We've since gotten an update on where we are able to do cash outs, and that was through the regulatory agency for the state of Texas. As you can see here, Section 50A, and of course you'll see your cash outs come through with the type 50A, which just means that it is a cash out refinance. Now, effective November 26th, they put the rule out there with some changes, and the changes are basically what you see at the very bottom. The closing may occur in any area located at the permanent physical address of the lender, the attorney, or title company. And of course, they added indoor office, parking lot. Also, I point out to you in this law, it says authorized physical location. Now, when I heard this news, I thought this is great news for notaries. The information came from the National Notary Association, really reliable source. However, what I like to do is to also go to the actual rule of law. And what I want to just say to you is, of course, reading is fundamental in the business that we're in. We've got to stay abreast of what's coming down the pike for us. So I've been reading regulations for, about, I don't know, 30 plus years. And, and at various times, I'm reading for different reasons. I'm reading the regulations for different reasons. So we have to decide if we're reading regulations for information and guidance. Are we reading the regulations looking for loopholes? If we're reading for loopholes, we've got to make sure that we are prepared to defend in court our decision. And ignorance of the law is not a defense. Now, I'm just going to share with you two instances. One, when I was reading regulations for information and guidance, I put together a homeownership program for the Section 8 homeowner, Section 8 clients who were looking to move into homeownership using their vouchers. I read those regulations for information and guidance on how best to set that program up, and it was quite successful. Now, let me just tell you about an instance where I was reading regulations looking for a loophole. Many years ago, as a loan officer, we know, as loan officers, we know that you cannot do a second mortgage on an FHA loan. It's just the way it is. And that's the way the guidelines read, or that's the way they read at that time. Well, I had a client, and he just needed a little more money to make sure that his loan was going to close. He was short, I don't know, maybe let's say $2,500. He needed and could get a short-term loan from the seller. Well, there's a danger in that because, of course, we don't, you can't look like it was an inducement to purchase. So I was able to get around that part of it. Then the next thing is, all right, so this is going to be a short-term second mortgage. Well, under FHA, you cannot do it. I read those guidelines, and I looked for me a loophole. And the loophole I found was that it did not say you could not, it wasn't specific in that you could not do a second mortgage on an FHA loan. It was just something that was understood, perhaps. Then the other thing was, my argument was, we do down payment assistance all day long. That down payment assistance is a second mortgage. Now, it may be one that you don't have to pay back. It is a forgivable loan, but it is still a second mortgage on an FHA loan. Can you explain to me, I'm having this conversation with my underwriter, can you explain to me how this is different? And we're talking about a short-term loan. We're not talking about a 30-year loan or a 15-year loan. We're talking about a short-term loan. That underwriter looked at me. We'd been at it for an hour, hour and a half, debating it back and forth. So I said, let's call FHA. Call HUD. Let's see what FHA got to say about it. FHA, they couldn't argue the point. They could not argue the point. So I was allowed to do that short-term loan, short-term second on an FHA loan. That underwriter signed off on my loan. And then she said to me, you got away with it this time. She said, but don't you ever try that again. I said, yes, ma'am, thank you. Now, let me tell you what the danger could have been in that situation, because I think she also explained to me, if this loan goes south and we have to buy it back, you will be penalized. So I said, okay, I was relatively sure that the person was not going to default, and they did not default. But I was able to get that done by looking for a loophole in the regulations. And I was prepared to defend it, as I did. And I was prepared in the event that loan had to be repurchased because of a delinquency, if they had gone delinquent within the first, 6 months or so. That was kind of the standard rule anyway. In an audit, they would look at the loan officer. And if you had too many of those, then that could mean you were in trouble. Fortunately, I never had any that I had a problem on. But again, we have to understand, what are we reading the regulations for? Are we reading for loopholes, or are we learning for information and guidance? So I've done that both ways. So for me, I started interpreting what this law really meant. First of all, I picked up on authorized physical location, indoor or indoor office parking lot. So let's look at it this way. Just giving you some food for thought. The signing appointment is conducted in a parking lot. Do you pull up to any standalone title company, attorney's office to conduct your business? Do you pull up into an office complex parking spaces designated for the title company to conduct your business? Do you call the title company, attorney office, and make an appointment? Even if it's in their parking lot, it's not in their office. Will the title company still charge a fee if you're in the parking lot? Will you have the signer move to your car? Will you have the signer stay in their car and pass the documents to them to sign, and they pass them back to you upon completion? Decide how you will conduct this closing before you accept the assignment. Make sure the accommodation is acceptable to your signer. Now, I also ran this by one title company. And keep in mind, every title company is going to be different, and it's going to depend on the relationship that you have established with the title company, whether or not they will allow you to do this. So the directive I got from this, and I only checked with one title company, she said the signing agent still needs to make an appointment with their office, even if they are in the parking lot. The signing agent still need to pay the rental fee, even if it's in the parking lot. The title company is in an office complex or standalone building. If it's in the parking lot, you reserve 1 or 2 spots in the back of the parking lot. Reserve a space just inside the building. Some title companies are in those complexes where there is an open space. In this particular one, it just happens to be where a vending machine used to be, but it's ample space that you could put a table and 2 chairs there, 2 or 3 chairs, to do a signing. And of course, she said, bring your own table and chairs. it's important to make the appointment at the title company, attorney's office, etc., because of audit purposes. I don't know if, well, basically, anytime I have done a cash out, when the order comes through and I accept, they immediately ask me for the location where the closing will occur. They want the address for the title company. Now, they need that for two reasons. Number one, they need to be able to update their records to show the borrower that that's where they're going to be. But the second reason is, oftentimes you will find a certification in those packages which will ask you to certify the address, the name and address of the title company attorney office that has been used. Well, that's because just like anything else, cash out refinances have audits to them. So, you know, after the loan, 90 days or so after a loan closes, they're doing an audit. So they need that information because they have to make sure, since this is a Texas Constitution law, they have to make sure that the loan has been closed in accordance with the law, with the Constitution, the Texas Constitution. So let's just say you decide you're just gonna pull up one day, you got the address for a title company, and you're just gonna pull up and do your closing without having booked the space with the title company. Let's just say that the loan that you've done comes up in that 10% that they pull in order to do the audit, and they find that that loan has not been done at the title company, in the parking lot, whatever the case may be, with the approval of the title company. Because they're gonna pick up the phone and call the title company and say, did this loan close in your office? Because when you make an appointment, when I make an appointment, they always put me on the books. I have an appointment in the office. So if they look back in their records and find that you did not make an appointment with them, then they have to say no. Then that becomes a problem in that audit. It could also mean that that loan would be overturned or called due. The lender can actually call that loan due, which means the borrower has to pay that loan off because it is in violation of the Texas Constitution. Would they actually do that? I don't know. I would imagine it would just be a ding on that lender. It would also be a ding on that signing service who put it out there. It would be a ding on that title company who had it and did not make sure that that loan was closing. So everybody would get a ding on their records, you might say. And of course, it's going to roll downhill to the notary. So what's the impact of the note on the notary? Well, it could mean that you won't get any more business from that title company. You know, I'm just putting it out there. That's a lot. Is it likely to happen to you? I don't know. I don't know. But my thing is, we always want to do our job with integrity. We want to do our jobs with integrity, whether somebody is looking or not. With this relaxed guideline, I think that it's easy enough for us to manage with the title companies. If you develop that relationship with them and you tell them you're going to do it in their parking lot, as long as you're not in the way of customers coming and going, I don't think they're going to have a problem with it. You should be able to do that with ease. Now, each title company is different. You'll have to determine how best to work with the title companies that you select. Now, the other thing, I did a closing yesterday in a garage, and I took a card table with me. I do have this very table that you see here on the screen. However, it was not at my house. But what I found with that card table was that lady was not far enough away from me, for my liking. So I called this morning to get my table returned to me, and I will use this table if I have to do another closing in a garage. This table is a 6-foot table, but it folds down. So then it's like 3 feet. So it's about the size of a card table when you fold it down. So for those of you who are considering doing closings in a parking lot, you may want to get a table like this. Or those of you who are considering doing closings in the office building in a space that's open, but you need to bring your own table, get yourself one of these little tables. They're at Sam's Club and they're only $49. Get yourself 3 folding chairs. Keep that in your car so that when you do land that closing, and you can use, I'm going to say first try to get a space that's inside the office where the title company is, in case it's inclement weather. Now, yeah, we're in Texas, but it can still get a little bit chilly if you're sitting outside for an hour or more. So try to do it inside if at all possible. But at the same time, we know we can have some exceptionally nice days, even in the winter in Texas. So I recommend you get yourself a table. Oh, and this table is more sturdy than a card table as well. It's a lot more sturdy. So consider doing that for these signing opportunities that you will have as a result of the relaxed guidelines for doing your cash out closings in the state of Texas. So I also wanted to just include the link to the National Notary Association where that article was shown, and that's the article that was put out to notaries from the National Notary Association. I also have put out the full link to the Secretary of State site where the full law is out there, which includes the authorized office or whatever. So just something for you to consider. And I want to thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. And we love to have you. They tell me I'm supposed to ask you guys to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You know I'm still new at this YouTube thing. So anyway, I hope you have an awesome 2020 end of year and stay safe.